Hey, this is Stephen Amell, and you are listening to Tomorrow's Legends, the podcast. Don't fail your city.
During a trip through time, the Legends were forced to land the Waverider in Blue Valley, Nebraska, where they discovered a young superhero.
Yes.
About to take flight.
That's cool.
Who are you?
I'm Stargirl.
Well, hello there, starlets, star-spangled fans, JSAers. We need a name for our Stargirl fan base. We don't have a name there.
Yeah.
So we'll have to throw that out there and maybe get some ideas and do a poll as to what we want to be called. But welcome back to Tomorrow's Legends. We are now in Blue Valley after just being in Smallville last night. We're doing a lot of traveling. Good thing we got the Waverider. Can you imagine if we had to ride a bus or something?
Oh, goodness.
So we're here to check in on Courtney and her friends after the last collision with Icicle and all his cronies, and it looks like they're headed to summer school. And this is chapter 1, and I'm telling you, we are jumping all around the country lately, but I am very happy that school is over because I am cleaning out my locker. I'm out of here. The Flash.
And I'm charging up my Blue Lantern ring for battle. This is X-Force 11.
And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, the Maid of Mischief Harley Quinn, and the Blue Beacon of Hope, X-Force 11.
Hello, Legends.
So, it's Stargirl. Stargirl is back.
Indeed.
It's exciting. And we're back in your ears again. Like, this is three times this week. I wonder if our fans are going to get tired of our voices.
I hope not. Not.
I hope not. We got some good listeners. We got a loyal fan base. So. Well, let's jump into this one. It is called Summer School Chapter 1. Let's get right into our ratings and review.
I gave it 8 kitchen battles. Now, while most of this episode addressed the fallout of last season and set up this season, I didn't mind at all. It's been a few months for our characters and things are hard for all of them. I like that we are seeing the weight of being heroes has on these teens and their families. Balancing being a hero and a student is not easy, and they're not doing well. The stakes are still high, and things are moving behind the scenes. I love it.
Yeah, it is good to be back. I love the small town feel of Blue Valley. I mean, does it feel like Smallville small? I think they're probably pretty comparable in size.
Yeah, probably. Maybe Blue Valley is maybe a little bit bigger, but who knows?
Who knows? We should check in on that. What's the population, I wonder, of each town? But yes, we're back in Blue Valley. I'm giving this one a 7.5 jugs of syrup. We're here to see how the town is holding up, and it appears all is back to normal, except for our young team trying to track down more evil and talk about evil beginnings. I'm telling you, man, oh man, the opening totally had horror movie vibes going on with jump scares included. I mean, that bus scene where she almost walks out, the little girl almost walks out, or the truck, I guess, that got me jumping. Anyway, our team is dealing with the fallout of last season, like you said, and it seems not everyone is dealing with it well. So it's not... This episode wasn't a bad return to form, albeit it was a little on the slow side, but also a nice slow burn start compared to the crash course in the rapid wrap-up of wrap-ups that we got in the finale last season. So I just want to see where this goes. Because I was a little curious with how disappointed we were with the finale, to how they were going to kick this off, and it's a nice slow burn. They're going to take things slowly, and that to me seems like they've learned something. So
yeah, I put the article in our Facebook group, but it's an interview with Jeff Johns, and he talks about this season being an arc and a story, and it's not going to be fighting a villain every episode. It's going to be a slower arc, and they talk about the vibe with our villains being more like a horror vibe, a la It and Pennywise and and Freddy in Nightmare on Elm Street. So it's going to have that type of vibe to it. So it's going to be a slower, in-depth pace, but it's going to be building up with these bad guys. And so I think last season we had to establish so much, and we're going to have a little more normal pacing this season and deal with kind of the characters. And I'm all for that. After watching a season of Superman and Lois where it's more character-driven but still having cool powers, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I love that you use those horror movies as comparisons, like especially Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy, and because all of those horror movies have one thing in common. They're dealing with teenagers that are struggling with whatever the bad guy is, whatever the demon or the creature or the monster is. It's always teenagers dealing with it. Well, that fits right into this whole Stargirl aesthetic. We've got young teens, and they're dealing with the bad guys or the monsters or whatever it is, and it's a very popular genre. Look at all the teenagers out there in the real world. What do they love to do? They love going to horror movies. That's kind of their thing. So I think it's going to be a good match and a good mix. We'll see what they do with it. And if it's not a monster of the week every week, that's good, because sometimes that gets a little boring. It doesn't provide depth. It doesn't carry a story arc from one episode to the other. So if they're gonna somehow put good story and the odd monster here and there, and have it carry all the way season through, that's what I enjoy. So that will be good.
Definitely.
All right, so talking points. What I just want to start off with the Stargirl opening logo. There's something fun about this logo. It's got this very 60s retro look to it, and they even had 60s music backing it this time. And I think they did that most of the season last season too, but it just, you got the 60s logo, you got the 60s music, and then you got the old classic 60s cars that everybody seems to have in this town. And I feel like, are we really in the 60s? Like, what's going on? But no, and then everyone's got cell phones. Okay, maybe not. But I love that aesthetic, and it really suits the show, I think.
Yeah, I had fun. Perry White asked in the thread about the paper that Mike had, and was there a date on there? So I did look, and I did a screenshot and put it in the group for him. But there is no date anywhere on the paper, because they give a volume number and an issue number, and that the paper was founded in like 1922 or something like that. But there's no date on there, so it's a classic, like the Cars.
Yeah, but they have cell phones, so we've got to be somewhat in modern. I mean, we're going to get a crossover this season. Apparently, Jay Garrick's making an appearance, so. Yeah, I guess depending on what he says, we'll get kind of a time frame.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Interesting.
All right, so first up, we're going to kick it off with the bad guys. We start the episode with a flashback to the early 60s per the license tags, and Eclipso is egging on Rebecca to disobey her mom, to steal, and more. And we find out, thanks to the mailbox, that this is Chuck's daughter. Yeah. And by the sound of her mom's scream, she is dead. And I put maybe taken over by Eclipso, but I'm thinking dead.
I'm thinking dead. And I tell you, that kid that was playing Bruce was creepy as hell. Mm-hmm. What good casting. I've never seen a young actor creep me out like that. I mean, every once in a while there's a creepy kid in a horror movie, but this guy just nailed it. And like I was saying in an opening dialogue, the jump scares, that truck going by almost hitting Rebecca, I actually jumped right out of my seat. That was one of those whoa moments. And then I honestly thought when her mom was crossing the street to go check at the party for her, I thought her mom was actually going to get hit. I thought, this is going to just pile up. It's going to be like Final Destination, where the death just keeps piling up, and it because I don't know if you've seen those movies or not, but it's out to get you, and if it misses you once, it's going to come again. So I thought, it's missed the girl, so it's going to get the mom. But anyway, I'd say little Rebecca is dead, and her mom just saw it. But what I was wondering about was what's left of her. Because it's when the mom first crosses the street and she goes past the little entranceway between the shrubs there, the look on her face, her reaction was like she didn't recognize what she was looking at first. And then she took a step forward towards it. She paused, and then she started screaming. So whatever it was she was looking at, she was unsure of it. So I'm just like, what did Eclipso do to that little girl? Did it have something, because his face kind of melted and went all dark and the doll was all melted. So I wonder if that was kind of like a hint as to what's going to happen to this little girl. Did he melt her?
Yeah, that's my thoughts too. I'm thinking that maybe it just drains everything out of it, so it could look like she was totally black, or maybe looking like that doll, or aged. I don't know, but it maybe Eclipso is draining that fear or the badness out, and it's just sucking her dry like a vampire, except something horrible. I don't know.
Which would explain why her mom didn't recognize her. So she probably like, what is that? And then she realized that's her little girl's dress that she was wearing, and oh my god, that's my kid. Yeah. So, what a way to open it! Like a horror movie. Holy, this is supposed to be a young kid's family show.
Yeah. So Eclipso in the comics is first known as Bruce Gordon, kind of a fun collaboration of names. But in this episode, the boy calls himself Bruce, and Eclipso takes over people by using anger, and his weakness is light. So looks like Eclipso might be pitted up against our new Green Lantern, but maybe even the staff. But that's the way it looks.
Yeah, like you were saying, it seems to me this is the Eclipso then, and from what I read, he uses people's fear to feed off of and get stronger. And like you said, he absorbs that fear. So he basically goes around trying to scare people so that he can then absorb their fear and get stronger. And I think that's what he was doing to those little girls. Well, their fear and their, like you said, their badness, their misbehavior. I think he grabs that as well. So, and the fact that I like that you say his weakness is light, because I don't know anything about Eclipse. So if his weakness is light, well, a Green Lantern, they have light-based powers. Okay, that makes sense. So they introduced one good character and they introduced one bad character. So it seems like a meant-to-be matchup. These are the two new characters that are going to face each other off, and everybody else is going to side on one side or the other to help in the battle, I guess.
Yeah. I like that whole idea of, each hero kind of has their rogues gallery, and so this one looks like a rogue for Green Lantern. So we now know why Dr. Midnight was fighting against Eclipso, because he's seeking revenge.
Yeah, revenge for losing his daughter. I mean, that was a crazy tie-in. When the camera pulls back and you see the same last name, you're just, whoa, okay. That was a deep, because it said decades ago, so this was a while ago.
Yeah, and Dr. Midnight was one of the oldest members of the JSA, and so he's obviously been around, and so you take into account, okay, this was probably early 60s, and you're thinking about, okay, now we're in, we don't know, but we're in 2020, somewhere in there, so it's like, the Justice... We've had several iterations of the Justice Society between when he started fighting. So,
yeah. Did we ever figure out from season 1 in the beginning, when the original premiere, when it's that big fight in the mansion there with the original GSA, how many years had? Because Pat kind of seemed like he was almost the same age. So I don't think that much time has gone by since that team existed, and now it's all been passed on to these teenagers. Like, it seems like at most 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know. Looking at Court's age there, she playing younger maybe, but I don't. It's been a couple years, but not too long. So
no, okay,
yeah. So at the end of the episode, we find out Cindy is back, and she grabs this file folder and then heads down to the ISA area, and the folder is labeled Injustice Unlimited, and I thought this was kind of a fun play on Justice, the Justice Society or Justice League Unlimited. Now it's Injustice Unlimited, and she's recruiting. She's got all these photos of different people, and she pulls out Eclipso, and it seems like they're really recruiting, and one of the photos is Mike. That really surprised me. I didn't catch it on the first watch and caught it on the second.
Yeah, I think she is rebuilding the evil team. She wants a team to fight back. So will she rebuild the underground base? Because she seems to have access. It seems like it might be hers now. Mm-hmm. And so who did she all have there? We had Artemis, we had Cameron, we had some kid with long hair. I don't know who that was.
So
was that the violin player kid or something?
I'm thinking it's the kid that ran into Courtney when she had her lunch tray there in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
He kind of had his hair in his face.
Yeah.
But that's who I'm guessing.
So he's a new kid, not someone from last season?
I couldn't tell. I really couldn't. It was just so quick.
I thought he was the musical kid, the guy that was going to take over the violin powers. Remember that
the
they can
fiddler.
Control. Yeah, the fiddler. I can't remember. So those are the kids, and then, like you said, there's Mike. But why Mike? That's my question. Why would she lay Mike's picture down the table? Did she sense something in him? Or does she figure that she can use his desire to learn and be part of the team to win him over because his dad won't let him join the team? Or does she somehow know that he's got a connection to the little pink pen genie character, which I forget the name of right now? There's 3 ideas that I have as to why she might be interested in him. I don't know. I don't know which one, if any, would be the right one.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe being left out. Maybe, she, I don't know. There's a lot of different reasons that she figures she can manipulate or something like that, and I just don't know. But I did do a quick look, and they do list Max France, who played Isaac Bowen in this episode, and he was in last season, so it could be the fiddler kid. So.
The picture, I didn't recognize him when he runs into Courtney, but I recognized the picture, and I think that's him.
Yeah. So,
okay.
It's picking up where they left off and building this new ISA. So it's going to be. She's going to have to take a little time to get going on this, but she's got some major help with Eclipso.
Yeah. If he's able to somehow, maybe just staring at the rock, he transfixes them and takes over their mind or something. Like we don't know what kind of powers they're going to give Eclipso for everything.
Yeah,
here.
and we've got the Shade coming as well, so one of the ISA members to help. So between the two of them, I think they're going to jumpstart it pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. I just think with Mike, Cindy has to know something about him to think that she can win him over. I mean, does she know that he's not allowed to be on the good guys team? Does she know he's in trouble with his dad? I don't know. I don't think she would. That's why I brought up the point of, does she know that pink pen thing is connected to him? There's got to be a detail that she knows that she can manipulate to get him over to her side. I just don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't, especially since he knows her background and that kind of stuff. I don't know. But
yeah.
So we get a little Starman / Sylvester heading east, tracking down Pat. He pulls into a truck stop in Nevada and starts questioning the waitress. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Is he some type of, private detective or something going on? And then he talks about the lady's ex liking stripes. And I'm like, okay, is this Pat's ex? And is it Mike's mom?
Yeah, I suppose it could be. I mean, I'm not sure we're ever going to get verification of that unless maybe we see her calling Pat to say, hey, this weirdo's looking for you. Or if she does, the next time we see this character, Starman guy, that he's still there and he's still getting more information from her. Or he did something to her. We have no idea.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm pretty much guessing that that's her. Even though she says, well, which ex are you talking about? I'm still thinking it's got to be ex-wife for sure.
Yeah. And do we think when he gets to Blue Valley, he will take back the staff, or will he let Courtney keep it?
See, I can't answer that yet because I have a weird feeling about this guy not actually being Starman Sylvester. Because I thought he was supposed to be dead. I know we got that weird clip of him at the finale last season.
Mm-hmm.
But the way this guy was acting here, he's acting weird. Because when he pulls up to the diner, he checks himself in the mirror like he's making sure he looks right. And it wasn't normal the way he did that. Both times I watched this episode, I'm like, wait, he wasn't like looking in the mirror to check his hair or see if there's anything hanging from his nose. He looked at himself like, does this look good? Am I... So and then he spoke weird too. And I just have this weird feeling that it's somebody else in disguise as him. A shapeshifter, something like that. Someone with... I don't know. I got this really weird feeling because he was not acting normal the way somebody would who's just coming in to look for someone. That to me is not the superhero Starman. He would not be acting like that and asking questions the way he did. It's just, there's something off with him.
Yeah, I didn't really get that whole vibe until my second watch when I saw him check the mirror, and I was like, But I didn't catch it on the first go around, so that was a good catch, Flash.
Yeah. So keep an eye on him. I have a feeling.
Yeah, definitely. All right, now it's time to talk about Courtney and our JSA.
Yeah.
So we find out from the new principal, who has been at it for a few months, that, we've had a little time pass since last season, but now it's the last day of school of that school year. And so we find out Courtney is going to have to do some work in order to go become a sophomore, I believe, and Mike is finishing up 8th grade. So
right.
We are still finishing up the school year that we started last season.
Yeah. Okay. So last season was in the middle of the school semester, because we wondered how they were going to go back to normal and just be at school again after everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because we thought, well, does everybody know they're now superheroes? Did everybody witness that? We have no idea. But I guess at this point, we're never going to know. We just have to accept that everything is back to normal. Because what it seems like to me, most of the town doesn't even know what happened, let alone know that these kids were out fighting. That's the way it came across to me.
Yeah, and I like the fact that we're getting to see the fallout from the battle and the events of last season. I'm glad that they just haven't rushed past that.
Exactly. Even though some time has passed, they're still dealing with things. And I mean, the team is dealing with it in very different ways. We saw each character dealing with it, and we're going to talk about each individual as we go here. But even the parents that are involved are trying to get back to normal. So it's neat that it's not just being brushed off. Whatever, move on. It's cool that guess what? There's not circumstances. There's
consequences.
Consequences, the other big C word I'm trying to think of, that happens after you deal with this kind of thing. So yeah, it's cool. What I also like about Pat here, I want to bring up Pat because we talked about him a lot last season, how much we love this guy as a dad, as a stepdad. He's pulling out the greatest dad stuff again here, just like he did last season. And it's going to come up in our favorite scenes. He's so calm, he's so straight-headed, and he's so patient. I mean, it takes a lot for him to finally put his foot down. He'll listen and try to provide answers, and if you aren't still getting it, then he's like, okay, you know what, enough. And I just love it. I love his portrayal of this character.
Yeah, I mean, you heard last season in my feedback that I really appreciated their marriage and Pat in particular. So it's good to see he's being consistent and it's continuing on this season, and the writers are still writing him consistently. Mm-hmm. So Mike wants to learn his dad's trade and start working on Stripe. Sounds like he and John Kent would get along smashingly.
Yeah, exactly. If they were a little bit closer in age, they'd probably be good buddies. Is it working on Stripe, or would he rather just want to fly it and join the fight? That's kind of the feeling I got. I don't know if he really wants to do any work. He just wants to fly the dang thing and get in there. And as their family business, quote unquote, to me is heroing. I made a word up there, heroing. That's the family business, but not mechanics. Anyway, I just last season I was saying I don't want this to happen. Don't let someone this young get into the fight and be this young superhero kid. I just don't feel a good vibe about it here. I hope they don't go that way. I know we've had really like a couple of Batmans, Robins have been really, really young as well, but we already have a young team. I don't want them to add someone even younger into the mix, because then it starts to take away from the believability a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do. So, Beth, I enjoyed Beth last season and was really wondering what was going to go on, and it looks like she's repaired the Dr. Midnight goggles, and she is having trouble getting Chuck reinstalled. And you add to that her parents getting a divorce. I mean, well, and I'm just wondering after that scene if Chuck's going to lock her out of the goggles too. Things are going horribly for Beth.
Oh. But I want to ask though, first off, I thought the Chuck and the goggles were completely fried last season. I thought that was the end of it, because we were talking about that how he's gone permanently, and what relevance is Beth going to have to the team now? Because without the goggles, without her providing the intelligence, she's not going to be much help to the team. And I thought they were gone, but apparently not. The tech is fixed somehow, but not the AI at first, because later in the episode it seems like the AI comes online, but it has AI memory loss, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see if they explain that. It doesn't look like they're going to. But we also, like you said, with her parents, we now know why her parents were always acting so weird, because they were a bunch of weirdos. And still, even despite that fact, despite they're getting divorced, they still are up there with villain parents as the worst parents ever. Like, these guys, it's unbelievable. I mean, we complained about that last season, how Beth was doing so much for them, making them dinner and breakfast and all, and they just never thanked her. They just didn't care. They're never there for her. They don't talk to her. They don't provide her with anything. She takes care of herself and them. And again, it's still here. I mean, okay, yeah, they're getting a divorce, but seriously, you guys suck as parents.
Yeah, I mean, when your daughter is more of a parent than you are, and that she's doing she sets up this fancy dinner to try to help them rekindle the romance. I mean, it's just so hard. I just feel so sorry for her.
Yep. Poor girl.
Yeah. So we've got Rick, and it seems like he is doing well in school because he aces the test, but his teacher is just so surprised that she just wants to make him retake it, and he's just fed up because nobody realizes what they did to save the city, and he is just like, go ahead, fail me. And so you've still got that anger and some of that stuff. You hear him correct his name, and yet he's also got this guilt and responsibility for Grundy being on the loose, and he's kind of tracking him and providing food to try to get to him, and it just makes me wonder, will he win Grundy over to become an ally?
Okay, well, let me address your first point, because I'm wondering if he did cheat on the test, or is he really doing that well? Because there was a moment there I couldn't tell if he was mad for being judged or mad for getting caught. And then again, I mean, when she said he got perfect, he did kind of have a proud smile on his face, but then I could also have taken that as a mischievous grin. I don't know, but because sometimes teenagers, they get equally mad when they're caught doing something, and then they just get all defensive. So
right,
yeah.
But taking the fact that how smart his dad was, and right, as our man, and then he had to figure out his dad's cipher. So I think he's pretty smart. It's just he's had such a chip on his shoulder in the past that people don't expect that of him.
That's true.
because he hasn't really lived up to it.
Yeah,
So,
he's never applied himself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. Now, here's what I think of the Grundy thing. I mean, it's obvious it is Grundy, the clues that were there and then the footprint. Now, if you guys recall, when Grundy was fighting, I think he was under control from Brainwave because once that link, because he was always angry, they kept him in prison and he was always angry. But once that link broke, you remember in the fight when after Stripe kind of beat him down and then Rick jumps on top of him and starts punching him a bit more. Grundy, you saw something change, and Grundy was suddenly scared, and he was covering his face like, "Don't hit me anymore." He was scared like a little kid, and he wasn't sure where he was, and then he runs off like a scared little kid. And so it seems to me that this version of him is kind of like a kid in a giant's body, or at least simple-minded, at the very least.
Right.
So what I think is going on here is Rick is starting to relate to him. He sees Grundy as like he was. He's alone, he's got no one to look after him or no one to help him, and he's forced to survive alone. And he's not sure how to take care of himself. So I think that's why Rick is trying to help him. He sees that in Grundy. And like you said, maybe there's a bit of guilt there that he kind of hurt Grundy, and he's realizing, like the poor guy doesn't know. Maybe it's on me to take care of him now. And I don't recall myself ever seeing a version of Grundy like this, a friendly Grundy. So it could be interesting if he does become an ally, because I saw an article out there on the interweb saying, did the season premiere of Stargirl introduce a well-known villain to become a new ally? And I wonder if they're referring to Grundy. I didn't read the article, so
wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but you gotta think about it. If Grundy joins the team, then Our Man's kind of useless because Grundy is permanent muscle. Rick can only hold it for an hour, right? So, unless they become like tag team buddies or something, I don't know. But yeah, could be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So Yolanda is the one I was really heartbroken for her. She is going to church repeatedly, but she can't bring herself to confess. She's under that weight of killing Brainwave, and she has this flash, and it seemed more than a memory to me, and I'm just wondering if Eclipso's having an effect on her. I don't know. But then she talks with Court, and Court doesn't give her the absolution that she's looking for either. So it's just so hard on her.
And she's only 14-ish, whatever, and she just killed somebody. So she's suffering from the trauma of that, and it could be PTSD possibly. We don't know. Like, she's suffering.
Definitely.
How does a 14-year-old mind handle and process the fact that she just killed someone? I mean, you can't. And then that creepy feeling that she's getting when she walked out of the confessional and she turned around and was staring at it, we get that really long lens effect, and there's this evil music kicking in and all these little sound effects, and she thought there was something evil in there with her. And I'm wondering if that's just her mind playing tricks on her, or if there's actually something there. Is that telling us something, that whether it's Eclipso is creeping around, or like you said, she killed Brainwave. So I wonder if Brainwave somehow has, because he was ultimately super powerful, I wonder if there's some type of lingering resonance from his mind tricks, what he did to everybody. It's stuck in her head, in her brain, and she can't get rid of it. And that's what's causing these weird, these moments of like she's seeing and hearing things. There's a Brainwave, lingering effect on her.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be a combination of the lingering effects of Eclipso, and I don't know, maybe trying to put a little bit of his mind in her and Eclipso. Brainwave and Eclipso both working to have an effect on her. I just don't know, but that's going to be a point we're going to have to follow and see where it leads us as we go through this season.
Definitely we have to, yeah.
So, Courtney is just uber caught up in being Stargirl. she's all about fighting evil. She's pushing the team and looking for the issues where there are none. I mean, she's taking them on patrol 7 nights a week.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they're just like, okay, we're done, girl. Like, oh my goodness.
Well, they're running around an empty town at night, and I've been in small towns like that where it's just dead at night. There's a raccoon freely wandering around. It's quiet. But yeah, she's definitely obsessed with it. And again, this is young minds trying to take on adult problems, and she doesn't know how to go about things. You know, plus there's this teenage know-it-all, can face anything mentality that also makes these scenarios worse, because that's kind of what's happening with her. She's got that teenage mentality happening. So, but then when she goes to talk to Cameron, this surprised me, because we see Cameron across the street, and then when she finally crosses over to talk to him, and we hear him speak, it shocked me. This actor has definitely gone through puberty, because his voice went way down low, quite a few octaves, and he's also grown about a foot. So for a moment I thought they recast him, because I couldn't, but then when you see his face straight on, you're like, okay, yep, nope, but he's grown like that. Whatever year and a half we've had off, that's the one kid. He's at that. So he must be a little bit older of an actor than the rest of them to hit that stage and just explode in growth.
Yeah.
Did it surprise you too when you heard his voice? Because he didn't talk like that last season.
Well, yeah, and the other thing about that scene is the fact that, okay, we're supposed to be getting ready for summer break, and he's wearing a sweatshirt, and the grandparents are wearing zip up tops too, and I'm like, Nebraska in the middle of May or end of May, like, okay, what's going on here? I know they probably filmed when it was colder, but I'm just going, okay, did somebody miss something or something going on here?
Well, think about it. Who's Cameron's dad? Icicle. So what if this runs in the family? What if the grandparents have a cold, whatever in them, a meta gene in them, and they passed it on to Icicle, and Icicle passed it on to his son, so they're always cold. They need to wear warm clothing all the time. And I'm glad you brought them up, because in that same scene, those creepy grandparents are still there in town, and which surprised me, because I thought they were going to skip town after what happened to get the heck out of there. But what I'm thinking is they're staying there. Cameron's probably living with them, so they're taking care of their grandson now that his dad is gone. And just listening to their conversation on the street there, I have a feeling they're going to try to steer him towards taking over for his dad. Whatever his dad was up to, they're going to try to steer Cameron into that. They're going to manipulate him somehow, because they're creepy. We got a creepy kid, and we got creepy grandparents. Everyone in the middle is okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to steer that way too, and I'm interested to see if, like you said, if that meta gene runs in the family. Yeah. I know that they were talking initially about giving Cameron full-out powers like his dad in season 1, but they changed their mind, so we may get to see that this season. I don't know, but it will be something, again, to keep our eyes on to see if things get a little frosty with him.
Yeah, because I think all that we saw last season was him blow cold breath. There was like a breathing scene there. Yeah, that was it. So
yeah, he was blowing out a candle or something. Yeah. So Court, due to her extracurricular activities and staying up late poring over the files, is failing 2 classes, and she's getting in fights. Her actions cause her family to miss their vacation that at least mom and dad were looking forward to, and she's pushing her her teammates too hard, and it's hurting her too. And it looks like this season's subtitle is Summer School. So I don't know past episode 3, because we hadn't got titles past episode 3, but episodes 1, 2, and 3 are chapters 1, 2, and 3. Right. So she's landing herself in summer school because of all that she's going through.
Yep. So first thing about that fight, seriously, I cannot blame Courtney there one bit. Because to me, it really looked like Artemis was going to take a swing at her with that hockey stick. There's no way to mistake how it looked.
Yeah.
So I don't blame her there. But I also love how quick her reflexes were in handling the hockey stick like it was her staff. I thought that was great. She just flipped that kid around and slammed her on the ground. That was a really cool move. And then honestly, we knew as viewers she wasn't doing in school. I mean, she's staying up till 4 a.m. on a school night looking at bad guy folders and information. So, like school's going to take a huge backseat when you're doing that. You cannot study and pass a test when you're up till 4 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she was studying, just not for the stuff she was being tested on in school.
Exactly, yeah.
And we get this talk about looking for the bad guys, and I'm wondering if it's going to be a girl who cried wolf situation. So, because she's saying, listen, they're out there, they're out there, they're out there.
So everyone's going to get tired of her saying they're out there, and when someone actually does show up, they're going to be, whatever, and she could get into trouble. It might be a little too late.
Right.
Gotcha.
You know, she's out on patrol by herself because everybody's like, you know, we're done, and she has no backup, and she gets a beat down and things like that, or somebody else gets hurt because of it.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
So, the fun part of this episode for me was our introduction of Green Lantern's daughter, Jade, and she's got the ring, and now she's broken in and got the lantern. I absolutely love this fight, and I want to hear Martin the Flash's thoughts about the fight scene.
Now, of course, you're going to love a Green Lantern introduced. It's like a colored cousin of yours, right? You're blue, she's green.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple questions there, but the fight was done really well. This show is the second best at doing the fight sequences. It looked legit. The physics were correct. The way they were thrown around, they were hitting hard. And I saw a picture Breck Basinger posted on her Instagram, her stunt double, and they look like sisters. Her stunt double is an exact dead ringer for her. I don't know how old her stunt double is, but she's getting tossed around, and these fights look realistic. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with what the show is doing. I loved... the first time I saw it, I was like, wait, you guys are cheating. When all the cameras down the hallway and we see them get slammed against the wall and then they disappear. And then the other one slams against the wall and they disappear. But then the second time through, I said, oh, that's actually kind of funny. They're taking turns throwing each other, which was kind of fun. But it was a good fight. So what I want to ask is what happened there with the whole lantern thing. Because we saw the lantern, when Courtney gets in trouble for staying up to 4 a.m., we saw the lantern start to, flicker to light. And then it glows again a second time before Jade gets there, and then she eventually gets her to pick it up. So did the lantern wake up and then call her to come get it? Or was it because she happened to be close by coming through town that the lantern was alerted to her presence, so it then woke up and kind of gave her its location to come get me? What happened there?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, too, because we got to see a little bit of it last season, but I'm thinking it's a tie to the ring because, so I don't know how Jay tracked it down other than it semi-calling her, but you would think that the time difference between the JSA getting, taken out by the ISA and the lantern was just sitting in basically their hall. I don't know if that hall had shielding, but you'd figure like it would have called her before this.
Yeah.
But maybe there was shielding there. I just don't know, but it does seem like it was calling her, and that's how she found it.
That's why I don't understand how the lantern tech works, but that's why I have a feeling it was a proximity thing. Whether she was looking for it and just happened to come through Blue Valley, or she knows some of the members of the GSA are in Blue Valley, so she came looking, and then from proximity effect, it woke the lantern up, and then they found each other. That's the only thing I can think of to explain it.
Yeah. So I'm going to get into this because the JSA's Green Lantern, Alan Scott, is magic based. So basically, the Guardians were trying to free the universe of magic, and they concentrated a lot of it into the Starheart, which eventually Alan Scott fashioned it both into a lantern and the ring.
Okay.
And so it's unlike the traditional Green Lanterns, that those lanterns tie back to the lantern on Oa and things like that. Right. And in the comics, this Green Lantern has been around that Starheart so much that he doesn't need the lantern anymore, because he's pretty much absorbed a lot of that magic. And he has 2 kids, Obsidian and Jade, and they both have these spectrum powers where they control the light spectrum. So Obsidian is controlling, like, the shadows and different things like that, and then Jade is really controlling the light side in the comics. And so at that point, she doesn't really need a lantern, but we may not be that far along here in this universe. Yeah. So she may have to have the lantern and the ring for a while before that absorption. So this really is magic based rather than tech based, and so that's why I can kind of see maybe it drawing her, because it's got this magic connection.
Okay, cool. Because what I'm wondering is how much of the comics history is going to be included here, because we know these TV shows like to take the characters and rewrite them a little bit. They've done on every show. Because I didn't know anything about this girl. I didn't even know there was a Green Lantern daughter. I don't know the Lantern story that far back to this guy, because he's the one that wears the weird red and yellow suit. It doesn't look like Green Lantern at all, and he actually carries a lantern instead of a ring. So I don't know those guys. I know Hal Jordan and Forward. That's kind of who I know. Yeah. So this will be interesting to learn about that, and what, will she be part of the team, and how much Green Lantern powers are we going to see? I mean, how much budget does this show have? Because we know they love to create light constructs with their mind, so how much of that are we going to see, or is it just going to be straight beams out of a ring like we saw in this fight?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, because I'm wondering where the budget is, because I would love to see those light constructs rather than just force beam blast. But I think, I really recommend there's some restart of the JSA and in the 2000s, and they are really passing on the torch from the heroes of the Golden Age to the younger group, including Stargirl. Right. And that seems what they're doing, and so I'm excited about that. And how much of the real Green Lantern we'll get to see, I don't know, but I'm anxious to see. But yeah, give me some light constructs.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. There's the Green Lantern movie that Deadpool actor was in. Why am I? Ryan Reynolds. Everyone hates it. I didn't mind it. It was goofy and silly, yes, but it was still a space adventure. It still had Green Lantern special effects in it, so it was fun to see it come to life. Now, what I would really love, if they wanted to get serious about Green Lantern and bring him into the DC cinematic universe, let's do Brightest Day, Darkest Night story, because, that would be awesome.
Yes.
All right, so there is something about this episode that gets
form of water.
And it's talking about this fight, because Courtney and Jade were fighting in the house for quite a long time, making a heck of a racket and destroying the house. Why did it take so long for Pat and everybody to come down the stairs? Like, seriously? The first smash would have woke them up and had them coming down, but the house was pretty much totaled by the time they got down there. I was like, really? Are you guys all sleeping with headphones on?
Their kitchen was toast.
Yes. But anyway, that just bugged me. That took way too long. But anyway, a funny nitpick.
Yeah. So when Pat is thinking about taking the family on vacation, he lines up some help in the shop with Zeke, and Zeke really wants to take over, and then he finds out about the robot. And so what are your thoughts about Zeke, Flash?
Well, I'll get to that, but I am going to say I'm actually pretty upset with Pat in that scenario. I just don't understand why he needs his garage taken care of when they're only gone for 2 weeks. Shut the garage down.
Exactly.
Yeah, close the doors, be back, we're on holidays, done. And then he leaves it to someone who was clearly giving the wrong vibes by being way too nosy. I mean, a few seconds into the garage, he's like, hey, what's in that door? What's behind the employee's closed door? You got something hiding? What? I'm like, hello? Like, wrong vibe. Okay, sorry, you know what? This isn't going to work. See you later. To me, that was just a really dumb moment on Pat's part. I did not understand that. Now, for Zeke, it turns out that he might sort of be trustable because he only sees it as a robot. He doesn't, I don't think he's attached it to superheroes or anything, because he has that line. He's like, well, you know, sometimes a man just needs to build himself a robot. So I think he's looking at it like sometimes a man just has to fix a car. Sometimes a man just has to drink a beer. Like, I think that's the kind of guy he is. He's just an old guy in a small town, and men are men. That's it. Got to build a robot sometimes. So I think he sees it as a cool hobby that he can maybe be part of, because maybe he's always wanted to play with robots as a kid growing up. So what I find neat is that, in fact, he might actually help improve it, because as we all know from last season, Stripe needs some big time improvements, because every time he went into battle, he got shut down pretty fast. He did okay against Grundy in the end, but throughout the season he definitely had weaknesses. So adding a flamethrower arm that Zeke was really excited about doing is his first new improvement, his first new trick. And I think what's going to happen is instead of Mike, Zeke is going to end up being the sidekick for Pat, and that might lead Mike to getting jealous and going towards Cindy.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, there you go. What are your thoughts about Zeke? That was my rant.
Yeah, I see him. Yeah, he's really nosy, but I think between the two of them, they can definitely make some improvement. And I maybe it's a fun way to have a little fun that Pat can have somebody that he can talk with and work with, like you said. And so I think it may be a little bit of comic relief there, and maybe somebody looking out for the shop while Pat is doing his hero thing too. So we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that takes us into our favorite scenes.
Shape out an eagle!
All right, so I think mine comes up first in this episode, and I called it Good Old Catfight.
What happened with Artemis Croc?
It was a misunderstanding.
Okay, well, what kind of misunderstanding?
I thought she was going to swing a hockey stick at my head.
Why would she do that?
Well,
it sounds to me they had what we would have called back in our day just a good old-fashioned cat fight. Right? Which is wrong.
Back to the point.
Pat stuck both feet in his mouth there, trying to make light of Courtney getting into a fight. That's why I thought, okay, he's trying to be funny, and yet we had that whole, politically correct modern issues thing. You can't say that anymore, apparently, but I found it really funny. Good old-fashioned catfight, it was classic.
Yeah. And mine takes place right after that one. I called it More Than One Team, or Pat Lays Down the Law.
Court, what are you doing getting into fights with Artemis Croc?
it was an honest mistake.
You could have gotten expelled. And now you gotta go to summer school? And the vacation that your mother was so excited about, that's now been canceled? The JSA, it's not the only team that you're a part of. Our family's a team, okay?
I know. But the staff is still lighting up.
Yeah, it still lights up, but that doesn't mean that there's a bad guy around every corner.
Yeah, but there's somewhere.
And why are you so convinced that it's up to you to stop them?
Because like the staff, I won't ever quit. Not like you did. Pat, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're putting Stargirl away for 2 weeks.
What?
It's for your own good.
But what am I supposed to do without Stargirl?
Past summer school, right?
Good old Beth.
Yeah, I appreciate it because Courtney, like we said, she's wrapped up in Stargirl, and Pat is just trying to help her find a balance between her life, her family, and the JSA. And I really appreciate him. You know, continued from last season, he's just so solid, and I really like it a whole lot.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you there. He's such a good parental figure, and I think he's good for Courtney. Now, if she would just listen, because we thought at the end of the last season she was starting to listen and realize, okay, Pat, it can teach me and guide me, and she seems to have taken a couple steps back. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Awesome clips. All right, so you guys have now heard us on our third show this week. We're putting in a lot of hours for you guys getting these podcasts out here, so we would love it if you would check out our Patreon support page. It's the best way to help support us. It just helps cover a lot of things. But like I said, we're putting in a lot of hours right now with 3 shows a week, so this is how you do that.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
Don't keep it to yourself now. Come on, baby, talk to us. It's feedback, yeah.
All right, first up, we got a voicemail from Perry White.
Hey, Flash and X-Force 11. It's your intrepid reporter friend, Perry White, here with feedback for Stargirl's episode Summer School, Chapter 1. Wow, yes, so happy to have Stargirl back in my life. I really like the sort of slow build-up setup that this episode had for the entire season. Obviously, we got a glimpse into sort of the ramifications and repercussions that our heroes are dealing with. Obviously, after the events of the season 1 finale, and obviously it's just a short time later. So I think it was really important. I think it was a good move by the writers to say, hey, we need to let these characters sit and deal with the angst, the depression, the anxiety, just the whirlwind that they had just gone through. I mean, I guess it would have been easy for them to like do a sort of time jump like most shows do, and basically take the months that we haven't seen the show and basically let those go by, and then we come back and it's sort of a status quo situation. But I really like that we see how the events of the finale, how they impacted each and every character and what they're dealing with, and I just like the fact that we had sort of an opportunity to sort of sit with that. That doesn't mean that the show neglected its action moments. I thought the fight at the end between Stargirl and Jade was incredibly choreographed. I thought it was well done. And so I think the show had a little bit of both. Probably the only thing that has me a little bit worried about season 2 is dealing with Mikey, and I'm terrible with names, but I think that's his name, right? The little kid, Britt's brother, not Britt, I'm sorry, Courtney's little brother. I'm using real names now. But I am not totally on board with him and his eagerness to take on quote unquote a superhero or a hero attitude. I'll be honest, I sort of liked it better and he was a little bit on the outskirts. And I know it's probably impossible for that to sort of continue through a series. I just don't know if I am ready to see him try to take on a heroic mantle. However, based on the tease at the end, I am intrigued by the possibility of him being swayed by the dark side. I think that would be fun and worthy of exploration. So I'm excited about that. Just not excited to sort of see him as a hero. And I think what might happen is, I think that Pat might obviously take the approach of sidelining him, and I think that might be what pushes him to seek out Cindy and join her crew. So we'll see how that goes. What I also really like about what this season has set up, and I think Jeff Johns talked about it in a story I think that Jeff posted, and I had read it before that as well, but he was just talking about sort of what this season is going to look like in terms of its tone and demeanor, in terms of being a little bit more dark, in terms of some of the themes that it takes on, and by that I mean some horror aspects to the show. And I mean, if you've got a show that is teeming with teenagers, I think it's only appropriate and could be really fun to play around with the horror genre. I think it was done pretty cool in an episode of Legends of Tomorrow, and I think the way that Stargirl could tackle it, I think it will be interesting. I think it's a genre that isn't explored enough, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. Overall, like I said, I thought it was well written, well directed, well acted. There's still a couple of things that upon first viewing that I sort of wince at a little bit, when Courtney was so sort of single-minded and gung-ho about being a hero to the point and detriment of the rest of her life. I thought she was going a little bit overboard, but then I took a step back and I thought about her age, what's been sort of thrust upon her, and sort of going in it full bore. It actually makes sense, and I think about sort of obsessions is not the right word, but to be honest, I think about my own obsessions, things that I'm incredibly interested in, and how they can sort of take over and dominate certain aspects of my life. So, I mean, it's only organic that being a hero and what it means to her would dominate her life as well. So, like I said, upon reflection, I actually thought that was a really good narrative choice to make with her character, and I'm just interested to see her grow and take on that mantle, or at least, as most heroes do, have to struggle with it. So I say all that to say this: if I have to give this episode a rating, I would give it 8 to 8.5 Green Lantern rings out of 10. Wholly excited about where the show is going, and I'm incredibly interested to hear what other folks have to say about this episode, and perhaps provide some insight, some things that maybe I overlooked. This is Perry White making his deadline one more time. If I plan to keep getting paid, I guess I'll keep making my deadline. I'm out.
I got one question for you, Mr. Perry White. Did you hack into my computer and steal my story and then submit it as your own? Because you were bang on with all of my thoughts tonight.
I know.
Good stuff, good stuff. Next up is Dreamweaver with an email. And she says, hello, Superfam. Do we have a Stargirl-related name? I can't recall. Well, go all the way back to the beginning of the episode, and you've got your answer. So I'm going to put a Facebook poll up and get you guys to help us come up with a name for our Stargirl fan base.
Yeah, because there's not one out there. I looked on Twitter.
Nothing,
and, nothing really, a fandom name yet. So We need one.
Let's see if we can kick one off and get some traction on it.
Yeah.
So she says, Dreamweaver here with a bit of abbreviated feedback today. I've been traveling between dimensions all day, and I'm not sure which time zone I'm in. So my full feedback message is lost in the timeline somewhere. But for now, I hope this shorter transmission makes its way to the Waverider. You're in. Stargirl's back for season 2, and boy, am I excited for this season. Everything they have been teasing for this season's story sounds so cool, and Jeff Johns is always one to deliver some great comic Easter eggs and references. And holy, were there a lot right off the bat with all the ISA files. There are mentions of time travel in other dimensions, and so many sci-fi doors that feel like they could have been opened in this show, and it would probably feel fresh and new compared to, say, how The Flash does those things. The one name that dropped that I hope is a tease and shows up is Gentleman Ghost. The tone and aesthetic Stargirl has set up would serve Gentleman Ghost so well, and he would be a fun villain to see, if only for one episode. This premiere was on the slower side, a lot of setup for things to come, some calm before the storm, but already some dark and twisty teases for what's in store with Eclipso. I mean, that first scene, now that's a layered setup. Once again, some really neat cinematography and editing in this episode. I still absolutely freaking love the effects for this cosmic staff, and something that so many of us have been waiting for years. Our first appearance and on-screen action of a Green Lantern. Yep, agree with you, both those things there. Alright, my transmission is cutting out, or my flight's being called, one of the two, so that's all for now. Until next time, your time-traveling, dimension-hopping friend, Dreamweaver.
Yeah, it was fun. She tagged us in a Twitter post today saying that she was enjoying flying above the clouds and imagining like she was seeing Superman's views.
Oh, awesome stuff. Good emails, guys. Yeah, for the rest of you out there, I think we still have to kind of spread the word about Stargirl that we are covering it.
Yes. So please help.
Yeah, please help us get out there and get people knowing that we're covering Stargirl. It is in our logo. That's why we updated our logo, so it shows you the 3 shows that we do cover. So we're going to start spreading that around a little bit more as well. Awesome. If you want to get in feedback and be part of it, this is what you got to do.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegendspodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter @tomorrowslegends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
Whew. So what do we, X-Force, we got a 2-day break before we got to do Legends again?
Indeed. We're kicking it off. We've got Legends with Board on Board. On Sunday, we got Summer School Chapter 2, and then The Last Sons of Krypton. It's going to be a wild week next week.
Right. But Superman finales this week, or next week.
Yeah.
So it's like, we'll be down to just the 2. But, what are they going to do with that? I don't know. But we're talking Stargirl tonight, so what is Chapter 2 going to be? I mean, the titles this season have no leaks at all, because it's just Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, so it doesn't give us any clue as to what's coming.
So, it's going to be interesting. She's looking for everything, and we've still got some villains to introduce, so it's going to be fun to see what's coming up next.
Okay. Well, there you go, guys. We'll talk to you in a few short days when Legends airs on Sunday. We'll be back in your ears on Monday, guys. That's all we got. Everybody have a good weekend. This is The Flash signing off.
This is X-Force 11, so say we all.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.